Did the Miami Heat just win the most pointless game in franchise history? Because in this play-in game against the Chicago Bulls, winning might have been the worst thing they could have done. Let's rewind. This entire season for the Miami Heat was a disaster. Not just because they struggled, but because they had no clear direction. Jimmy Butler refused to suit up. Pat Riley watched helplessly from the sidelines. Eric Spoelstra, a Hall of Fame-level coach, suddenly looked like he forgot how to lead. And worst of all, they weren't bad enough to tank and weren't good enough to compete. Stuck in NBA purgatory. At one point, they lost 10 straight games. They were 4-17. It was the perfect setup to bottom out and land a top draft pick, maybe even Cooper Flag. But then, in classic Heat fashion, they randomly flipped the switch. They won 6 straight out of nowhere and finished the season strong. For no reason. Like a boxer throwing haymakers after the bell. They weren't going anywhere, but they refused to lay down. And that leads us to the real issue, the pick. Miami's first-round pick this year technically belongs to OKC. Unless it lands in the lottery, it's protected. So if they miss the playoffs, they keep the pick. But if they sneak in, even as the last seed, that pick is gone, vanished, out the window. So when they walked into this winner-takes-all game against Chicago, the stakes weren't just playoffs or bust, it was future or failure. Lose and maybe land a star. Win and you lose the pick. All for a first-round exit. And here's the kicker. They were facing a Bulls team that had owned them all year. Chicago had already beaten Miami 3 times this season. Once in Miami, twice in Chicago. And the reason? Josh Giddy. If you haven't been watching Chicago lately, Giddy has turned into a one-man demolition crew. Since the Levine trade, he's been their engine, dropping triple-doubles, controlling tempo, and punishing defenses that try to put smaller guards on him. Against the Heat this season, he averaged 26 points, 10 boards, and 10 dimes. That's not a hot streak, that's dominance. And it's not just numbers. His size and physicality break Miami's defense apart. In one sequence, he bulldozed through Alec Burks like he wasn't even there. In another, he read a collapsing defense, baited the rotation, and dished out a perfect pass to a wide-open corner shooter. Miami had no answers. So when the game tipped off, the expectation was simple. Giddy was going to cook, and Miami was going to crumble. But the Heat had other plans. Right out the gate, Tyler Herro was on fire. 6 for 6 shooting in the first quarter, hitting threes, slicing through the paint, finding teammates like he had eyes in the back of his head. He and Andrew Wiggins combined for 21 of Miami's first 28 points. It was an avalanche, and Chicago couldn't stop it. Bam Adebayo started the game guarding Giddy, but after Khalil Ware picked up 2 quick fouls, Miami had to adjust. That meant Bam off Giddy, and that's when things started getting interesting again. Giddy began to find his rhythm. He slipped through backdoor cuts, bullied mismatches, and did what he's done all year: make smart basketball plays. Still, Miami kept punching back. Duncan Robinson was hitting contested shots. Herro kept pouring it on. By the end of the first quarter, Miami led 39-28, tying the most points Chicago had allowed in any first quarter all season. And yet, somehow Chicago stole the momentum. With the clock winding down, Matas Buzelis grabbed a steal and launched a buzzer-beating 3. Suddenly, that 11-point lead felt a little shaky. Then came the second quarter. More Herro, another bucket. A ridiculous dime to Khalil Ware for an easy dunk. The Heat were rolling. But Chicago refused to fold. They clawed their way back with better defense and a little shot-making magic from Nikola Vucevic and Kevin Huerter. They started closing gaps in the paint. They started hitting the threes they were missing earlier. And they forced Miami into one of the weirdest situations of the season, looking dominant, while somehow still feeling vulnerable. By halftime, Miami was up 71-47, a blowout on paper. But this wasn't over. The third quarter is where things got wild. Chicago came out swinging. Vucevic locked in defensively. Matas Buzelis started heating up. And just like that, the Heat's 24-point lead got sliced down to 18. The Bulls were finally alive. For a stretch, they looked like the better team. More energy, smarter ball movement, better defense. But every time Chicago started to build something, Tyler Herro tore it down. He wasn't just hot, he was surgical. Mid-range, deep threes, no-look passes, Herro did it all. At the end of the third, Miami still led by 14. Even with Talon Horton-Tucker hitting absurd fadeaways, even with Miami going cold, they stayed in control. Then came the fourth. And this is where everything could have flipped. Chicago hit a few threes. The crowd roared. And then, the moment. Tyler Herro hit a beautiful, fading three at the top of the key. Huge shot, but it was waved off. Offensive foul, he kicked his leg out and tripped Buzelis. Momentum gone. It felt like the game was about to swing completely, but Miami dug in. Davon Mitchell, yes, Davon, stepped up with a massive block on Kobe White and followed it up with a floater on the other end. Then Herro iced it. With 5.5 minutes left, he isolated on Kevin Huerter, blew by him on the baseline, and scored what looked like his 38th point of the night, matching Jimmy Butler's legendary performance in the play-in game a year prior. And that was it. The Heat win. They beat the Bulls. They finally get revenge after losing all season. But here's the question, was it worth it? Was it because by winning this game, Miami likely lost their best chance at improving this roster? That lottery pick? Gone. A potential trade asset? Gone. A shot at a young star to build around? Gone. This wasn't just a meaningless win. It was a self-inflicted wound. Now they go to Atlanta for one more shot at the playoffs. If they win that, they're in. And their first-round pick goes to OKC. Miami just secured the worst kind of success. A win that doesn't move them forward, only sets them back. They've got no Jimmy, no pick, no cap space, no identity. Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo are talented. But let's be honest, they aren't carrying this team to a title. And Pat Riley knows it. This roster wasn't built for the future. It was built for Jimmy Butler. And without him, it's just stuck. So Heat fans, here's the uncomfortable truth. You better hope they lose to the Hawks, because if they don't, this franchise just might have buried itself deeper in NBA no man's land, with no star, no pick, and no way out.